So a lot of big time moves are happening. We are into the legal tampering portion of free agency. So that means players can agree in principle to sign with teams and also on the years and money associated, obviously. However, because things are not technically official yet, we do not have all the details on all of these trades, as is the case with a player like Brandon Scherff, who is joining the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, the years and the money is unknown. But we're going to be talking about a lot of these big free agent signings today, and some of these that have gone under the radar as well, like maybe a Jake Kumaro re-signing with the Bills. So we have a number of players returning to their teams, obviously. Not going to talk about guys that got franchise tagged. That should be fairly common knowledge at this point with Chris Godwin, etc. However, there are a number of top free agents still that have yet to sign, like Teron Armstead, like Von Miller, Chandler Jones, Tyrann Mathieu. You could go down the list for ages. And there have also been players that have been recently cut joining the free agent pool, like Zadarius Smith, who I'm not sure if he'll be on this list. He is at 19. Bobby Wagner. Zadarius Smith is going into his age 30 season. He's currently 29, but he will be 30. But there are a lot of really, really good players still available, and we'll be talking about some of those guys in the upcoming days as they get signed. This is not that video. Be sure to subscribe so you check out that video. Let's talk about some of these guys that are known to be signing with teams so far. This video is sponsored by Hawthorne. Absolute best spot to go to for hygiene. They feature things, great items like shampoos, conditioners, the water-based pomade that I'm actually using right now. I think it's doing the job. And even their great aluminum-free deodorant. And they feature a quiz. It's really, really easy to take. Just enter your name and then you answer some really simple questions like what your face skin type is, whether it's dry, whether it's a bit of both, whether you have curly or straight hair or even no hair at all. A bunch of different questions that are designed to custom tailor perfect products to you that fit your specific needs. Maybe you want to thicken your hair. Maybe you have oily hair. Maybe you have dandruff. Well, they have specific shampoos and conditioners that can help with both. And all you have to do to take advantage of this great opportunity is go to hawthorne.co. That's HAWTHORNE.co and use code BENGAL10 to get 10% off when you buy your first purchase. So check it out. Shampoos, conditioners. I like the pomade. They have deodorant. They have soap. They have lotions. They have facial creams. Definitely a lot of great items to check out. That's hawthorne.co and use code BENGAL10 to get 10% off on your first purchase. Link is down there in the description. BENGAL10 for 10% off. Take advantage of this. You're going to buy these products anyway. Might as well be from Hawthorne with a discount. Start with this list courtesy of CBS Sports. J.C. Jackson to the Chargers, who have been very busy today. This was their biggest signing, I would say, and they've had a huge week. J.C. Jackson, very obviously one of the top free agents available. Ball hawking cornerback. He agrees to go to the Chargers. 5 years, $82.5 million. And do we know the specifics of how this contract is actually set up? We do. So it's $40 million guaranteed, but that 2022 cap hit of $8 million is not bad. Now, I would expect for that to get more expensive as time goes on. The AAV is 16.5. And yes, that cap hit does rise. They do have an out in 2025 with 10 mil in dead cap, which would save them, it seems like roughly 9 million. So they're not really locked into that, but you're probably going to want them through age 31. This is a really good contract, I would say, for the Chargers, and they desperately needed help at corner. I mean, if you watch my Chargers rebuild that I probably even posted today, you know, I wish J.C. Jackson would have been in that. But I did correctly predict another signing. Get into a minute with Sebastian Joseph Day. This is a really good contract for them, though, but you know that they needed cornerback help. The Michael Davis contract isn't great. Asante Samuel Jr., you hope he can keep developing, but they needed a true CB1, and J.C. Jackson, I think, can be that guy. Really, really good player. Christian Kirk was probably the biggest news today, honestly, because his contract seemed so wild, it's ridiculous. However, in the way that it's actually set up, his cap hit in the first year, you know, is next to nothing. So even though it's 4 years, 72 mil with a $20 million signing bonus, he is only guaranteed 37 mil of that 72, which is still a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But they have an out in 2024. Only 10 mil in dead cap. So this really is not going to be that bad. I would be very surprised if Christian Kirk is still getting paid by the Jaguars in 2024 and 2025. So I think a lot of these guys are going to be potential cuts. So, you know, you hope that they don't get cut so they can get that money, but these guys could be getting cut. And a lot of these contracts are set up like this. Hassan Reddick signed a big contract as well to go to the Eagles, but it's pretty reasonable. 30 mil guaranteed, 45 total over 3. We don't actually know the full details of this yet, but it's a reasonable amount for what you're getting with him in the arguable prime of his edge rushing career, 28, 29, 30. I think you're going to get pretty good value out of this. It's unknown what his true role will be, but you would have to think that he's going to be the like Sam linebacker for the Eagles, like a Jannard Avery potentially, but like better, of course. Foye Oluokun is headed to Jacksonville. They made a bunch of big splashes. Oluokun has pretty quietly been a very good player for the past few years with Atlanta. And again, this is potentially around his prime as well. I think it's a pretty favorable contract for one of the top linebackers available, especially when he maybe hasn't even played his best football yet. So I don't really mind that for Jacksonville. They are shelling out a lot of money overall, but I don't really hate a lot of these deals going on. Larry Ogunjobi to Chicago, I think is kind of weird. Listen, I love the beast out of Charlotte more than anybody probably in Larry Ogunjobi, but is he a better signing than keeping Bilal Nichols? I don't know that he is. He's a little bit older. You're paying him quite a bit. And I like Larry Ogunjobi. I really do. But it feels like the Bears now don't really know whether they want to try and be rebuilding or not. And I don't know why you're opting to pay Larry Ogunjobi. I think he's a great player. I just don't really understand it from a team building perspective. I think it's I mean, you got to have somebody play, and he's going to be probably fairly good there. It's just, I'm not really sure if the Bears are trying to still compete a little bit or not. It's a little weird after the Khalil Mack trade, but they're clearly not ready. I don't know, a little strange for me there. I don't hate it. I'm conflicted. Laken Tomlinson goes and re-teams up with Robert Saleh with the Jets there. I'm fine with it. This is a really good contract, I think, for the Jets. You have to put an emphasis on protecting Zach Wilson. Tomlinson was one of the better guards available. I think it's a pretty good signing. Alex Kappa. This was big. He got paid. 4 years, 35 mil. Only 11 guaranteed at signing, though. And the AAV is under 10 per year. I think it's pretty reasonable for Alex Kappa. He's not amazing, but I think if you're the Bengals, you're going to take pretty much anything you can get. So this is a good move for them. They need to protect Joe Burrow. And Kappa is, I would say, an upgrade over Quinton Spain, and maybe even significantly so. Zay Jones to Jacksonville. I don't really know why they're doing this. Like, Zay Jones is a fine player. He's not great. I hate to crap on him, but he's not really going to give you too much. And you're trying to put, like, bona fide difference makers around Trevor Lawrence, and your answer is Christian Kirk and Zay Jones on long-term deals. I say long-term. It's not that long, but it's just a little peculiar. I feel like you still need to do better than that. I think there are going to be some people that misread this as, oh man, the Jags are really making a concentrated effort to put talent around their hopeful, future franchise quarterback. I don't really see it as that. Yeah, sure, they're spending money, but what is the actual true talent that they're bringing in? It's not great. It really isn't great. CJ Uzomah, going from the Bengals to the Jets. I'm surprised to see him leave Cincinnati. He played really well in his role there. I think this is a really big get for the Jets offense because you get a willing run blocker in CJ Uzomah that was a former receiver in college. I mean, he can catch the ball. We know he can. He's a good athlete. He's got good size. And the Jets really needed to upgrade a tight end. And I think they absolutely have done that with Uzomah. Ced Wilson goes to Miami. It feels like they do one of these, every so often in free agency. I would liken this to the Albert Wilson contract, where it's kind of like, you gave that contract to him? he's not a bad player, but I don't know if he's worth that much, but that is the going rate of receivers nowadays. It's I don't know. I don't want to critique it too much, but kind of the same thing with the Jaguars. It's like, are you using that money in the best way to bring in Cedric Wilson? He's all right, but I don't really know if he's a significant upgrade over some of the guys you already have there that aren't great. Ted Karras to Cincinnati as well. Probably is an upgrade over Trey Hopkins, even though I, hook 'em horns, love him, but yeah, hasn't been great. Karras is a veteran. I would say it is an upgrade overall, which is what you're looking for. It's 18 million over 3, only 5 guaranteed. It really is not bad at all for Cincinnati. Xavier Woods from the Vikings to Carolina. Yeah, I think he's probably going to play that over the top role with the too high. Like, some of these safeties will roll over, and I'm interested to see if Jeremy Chin stays in his usual role, or if they have plans for him long term that will kind of change what he does. I don't think bringing in Xavier Woods really does anything to compromise Jeremy Chin, because I think they're going to do different things, but it's not horrible. This is a pretty reasonable contract. 3 years, 15.75. It's pretty reasonable. Chase Edmonds, this is kind of under the radar. 2 years, 12 mil. I really like this contract for Miami. Now, I think they are still going to be in the market for a running back, and maybe that's through the draft and probably is in the mid rounds. I like Chase Edmonds. He's good. He's not great, but this is reasonable money. Mark Lewinsky, I think I just passed over for the Giants. Love this deal for the Giants. I'm a Giants fan. Yeah, they're giving him 11.4 mil guaranteed, but this is a fairly cheap contract. 3 years, 20 mil for a very solid offensive lineman. He's been one of the more underrated guys in the league, and he's not, playing a glamorous position at guard, obviously overshadowed by Quentin Nelson at left guard. You got some great players on that Indianapolis offensive line. I think it made his life a little bit easier, playing next to Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson on the same line. Obviously has some pretty good pieces at tackle, or at least did before Anthony Costanza retired, but right tackle looking pretty good too with Braden Smith. It's a good offensive line, and Mark Lewinsky was a decently big part of that. Now, how well is he going to play with the Giants, where he is instantly the second best offensive lineman on that team? Remains to be seen. But I am cautiously optimistic. The last one we're really talking about here is Evan Ingram to Jacksonville. It's only 1 year, 9 mil. Like, yes, they are paying him $9 million, totally guaranteed, but it is only 1 year. You're not going to lock in. You have the money as long as you're going to comfortably operate under the salary cap like the Jaguars continue to do, because they have all this money. Really not a bad deal for a potentially high upside guy if he can learn to catch. We have other guys that have agreed to go other places. I think the biggest one is Brandon Scherff going to Jacksonville. This is huge for that offense. Their line, I think, was disguised how poorly they played last year. Andrew Norwell is going to be gone. He just hasn't been great. Jawan Taylor hasn't been great. Cam Robinson has improved at left tackle, but a lot of that is on Trevor Lawrence getting the football out on time. And I really do think his athleticism and mobility has disguised how bad they are. Scherff is a really, really good player, and I think this contract will be probably fairly close to what Joe Thuney got last year. Oh, look, it's there from last year. Joe Thuney, let's see this contract. This Spoke Track very busy at the moment because a lot of people are looking into these deals. Joe Thuney got 5 years, 80 mil. I really think the contract will be somewhat comparable to this. And I think there's a chance Scherff got even more, and I think even more guaranteed. I wouldn't be shocked to see Scherff get 50 mil guaranteed if the contract is a long-term deal such as this. This is a really good contract for the Chiefs. Because look at the dead cap down the line. Into his 30s, it's like nothing. Yeah, teams are really setting up some pretty team-friendly deals nowadays. But yeah, I think Brandon Scherff's going to get a lot of money, and it's well warranted. He's one of the best guards in the league. We also see, talk about Laken Tomlinson, Sebastian Joseph Day. Big get for the Rams, or loss for the Rams. Big get for the Chargers. Crosstown. One of the better interior defensive linemen in the league, probably in that top 15 range. And he's a space clogger, which is what the Chargers needed. And when you have Sebastian Joseph Day eating up space and Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa in position to go after the quarterback, now, I don't think you're done. They could still draft defensive tackle within the first 2 rounds of the draft. Would not be surprising whatsoever. I think they might have their eye on a tackle, though, to end up replacing Bulaga. That would be my bet at what they do at 17 now after signing J.C. Jackson and now signing Sebastian Joseph Day. But yeah, I think D-tackle is still very much in play on day 2, maybe day 1 if Jordan Davis falls to you, or if you like Devontae Wyatt, which you would. And I think, honestly, Devontae Wyatt would be a better fit with the Chargers based on the Sebastian Joseph Day signing. We have Daquan Jones to Buffalo under the radar. Austin Corbett to Carolina is actually a pretty big move. Corbett was someone that came along a little bit with the Rams, and the Panthers' offensive line's been really awful. Mason Cole, I imagine, will play center in Pittsburgh, and Kendrick Green will slide back over to guard, which should be a little bit more familiar to him. It's what he did in college at Illinois. Austin Johnson to the Chargers. So maybe, I still don't think that stops them from drafting a D-tackle. Austin Johnson's not great. He's not horrible, but he's not great. Taven Bryan at Cleveland. This is almost like deja vu in a way. I feel like the Browns love going after highly touted interior defensive linemen based on their draft stock. I mean, Malik McDowell. They brought in Malik Jackson, who used to be good. Taven Bryan was thought of to be this great prospect, snuck in the first round, never developed in Jacksonville. Cleveland still very much needs help at D-tackle. I don't think that changes much. Now, another big one is Teddy Bridgewater, Miami. Can't really stay healthy, not that great. Am I describing Tua or Teddy? That's an unnecessary stray bullet. But yeah, Tua has underperformed a little bit so far, goes without saying. Teddy Bridgewater is a good insurance policy. But you think he had options. So it's interesting. I wonder what his promised role would be. Compete for the starting job, maybe? I don't know. I think Tua is still the starter in Miami. I have faith in Tua to be an above average QB. We'll have to see if he eventually reaches that potential. And then Mitchell Trubisky, 2-year contract to go to Pittsburgh. Mitch Trubisky could end up being okay. It's going to be quick reads in Pittsburgh. It's going to be handing the football off. And I think they're going to utilize his athleticism. I don't really see too much of a downside here. Again, we don't know the money. I assume it's a pretty decent contract for Trubisky, just being one of the top quarterbacks in the market, especially when all these teams need quarterback. But I don't really see a lot of downside here. Pittsburgh taking a flyer on obviously highly touted QB. If you're going to give Sam Darnold every chance under the sun, Trubisky deserves another chance. I'm interested to see what he does in Pittsburgh. But I think that's pretty much all of the major new signings in terms of some of the players who are going back to their former team. Carlton Davis and Ryan Jensen. Big gets. I think both 3-year contracts to return to Tampa. These were huge. If the Bucs were going to continue to compete for a championship, you needed to bring back those 2 players, and they did. Huge for Tampa. They're still in a very, very, very good spot. Devondre Campbell got a monster contract, 5 years, $50 million, but the money, not so bad for an all-pro linebacker who is, 28? You know, in Madden, not ideal. In real life, that's a pretty good contract for the Packers. Don't hate it at all. Quandre Diggs back to Seattle, 3 years, $40 million. It's a reasonable contract for his level of play. He's a quality safety. Emmanuel Ogbah. This one's going to go under the radar, as Emmanuel Ogbah always seems to. 4 years, $65 million. It's a pretty good contract for one of the better edge rushers in football. We don't usually hear about Emmanuel Ogbah being one of the best edge rushers. He's in that top 20 range probably, which doesn't sound great. But you got 2 edge rushers to a team that start. He's really, really good. This is a really good contract, I would say. Talked about Aluakun. Joseph Noteboom back to the Rams. Yeah, you need some Andrew Whitworth insurance policy, and that's what he's going to be. Obviously has experience starting, but I think, do you eventually move him to left tackle? Could very well happen. Could happen. So 3-year contract, I think, to eventually be that left tackle. Not sure, but I think there's potential for that. Talked about Alex Kappa. Zach Ertz back to Arizona, 3 years, $31.65 million. It's a little expensive for Zach Ertz at this point in his career, but he was pretty good with the Cardinals down the stretch, so I really don't hate it. Brian Allen headed back. This is a pretty good contract as well, 3 years, $24 million. He's a decent player, and the Rams continue to just keep their talent in-house after winning a Super Bowl. Now, will Von Miller stay? Unlikely, I think. Unlikely. But there is potential for that. And the Rams are not rebuilding. They are reloading very clearly. Michael Gallup. This is a tough one for me because I like Michael Gallup as a player. 5 years, $62.5 million. He's just worse than Amari Cooper. And yes, you are clearing up space, but at what cost? He's good. Amari Cooper, in my opinion, is significantly better. I don't love the idea of trading Amari Cooper and keeping Gallup. Extension-wise, I just don't. I think it's going to hurt the Cowboys offense. As a Giants fan, I do like this. So, Gallup's good, but I think the offense got worse with this move. So, I don't know what you're doing with that money. They brought back DeMarcus Lawrence, or they extended him. I'm a little up in the air about that. Lorenzo Fatukasi back with another Jacksonville signing here, 3 years, $30. He's a good player as well. They're just signing a bunch of decent players. That seems to be the Jags strategy. Tim Settle to Buffalo. I don't really think he's too much of a difference maker. We'll have to see how well he plays in Buffalo, but they needed help at D-tackle, so they think they found it. That's fine. James Conner, 3 years, $21 million back to Arizona. They have no options at running back right now. Like, none. Losing Chase Edmonds, I think they probably had to bring back James Conner. 3 years, $21 million for him at 26. Not horrible. Not horrible. Talked about Ogunjobi. BJ Hill, 3 years, $30 million as well. Good contract. Interior defensive lineman. Good player. He's a good combo alongside DJ Reader. I like BJ Hill. He was a good Giant, and then he got traded for Billy Price. Good stuff. Braxton Berrios back to the Jets, 2 years, $12 million. Very, very reasonable contract. He's like a fourth receiver. You really don't want him playing a whole lot more than that. And then Glowinski. So those are the biggest deals of the day. Now, more will continue to happen, of course. Or have the Giants signed even more? John Feliciano. Has he signed with the Giants? Former Raider, played with the Bills last year. He's not horrible. I think injuries have kind of hurt him a little bit. Taquan Jones to the Bills. Let me refresh here. Because it seems like John Feliciano has signed to the Giants. Do we know the details of this trade? Or it's this trade of this signing? It seems like no. Here we go. Rejoin Brian Daboll and Bobby Johnson, and of course Joe Shane. Play center for the Giants. 1 year deal. It's better than what the Giants have had. And with the injury that happened to the Giants center last year, brutal one. It's an upgrade, I would say. It's an upgrade. But it is a Band-Aid. It's a 1 year contract. I don't think there's too much you can get excited about as a result of that, but it is an addition. I don't really know if I can put it any other way, but I think that's going to do it for this video. So much more to come. So many more players to sign. Von Miller is going to be a big one. That might be its own video. Chandler Jones along the same lines. And I think Teron Armstead eventually heads back to New Orleans once they trade for Deshaun Watson. So that'll be its own video as well. So when the Saints trade for Deshaun Watson and Teron Armstead ultimately re-signs in New Orleans, I'll have videos on that. Harrison Phillips to the Vikings as well. That's a big get for them on the interior. Their interior D-line is not looking too bad now. And I'll end this with an RIP, the bad guy. Razor Ramon Scott Hall. I don't know if any of you guys are wrestling fans. I used to be. Razor Ramon, pretty cool one. A little bit before my era. But yeah, RIP, NWO, Scott Hall. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
It's insane, I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. Papa turn, taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speed burst good.